Welcome to MMA Made, the best MMA show around the world. My name's Mighty. I'll be your host for this evening. Let's jump right into it. This past weekend, UFC on Fox, Dillashaw vs. Barao 2. I'll be honest, I didn't see it going this way. Let's just start right with the main event. You know, I picked Barao. I don't want to say that I thought it was a fluke the first time, but I didn't think that Dillashaw was going to come in and do what he did. I mean, it was impressive. My hat is off. The one that I'm not wearing, if I had one, I would take it off. And my hat is off to TJ. So TJ, if you're watching, which I know you're not, but hey, maybe you are, my hat is off to you. Great job. Just insane. I thought that maybe it was going to go differently because that's what I picked, and he proved me wrong. So it was a great fight, though. It was a great fight. He came in. I want to say it has that, like that Frankie Edgar, BJ Penn, because a lot of people thought that BJ Penn won that first fight, and maybe it was a fluke that Frankie won, and he comes back and he dominates BJ Penn. And that's hard for me to say because I'm a huge BJ Penn fan, so that's hard for me to say, but it had that similar feel to it. You know, when Frankie fought BJ for the second time, you can see he had that confidence. He knew he could beat him. And I saw the similar type of thing with Dillashaw when he was fighting Barao this past weekend. He knew that he could beat him, and he did. Obviously, insane. I mean, he came in, hands were down. I don't know if you want to call that confidence, if you want to call that cockiness. I call it not very smart because you can still get caught and then you look like an idiot. You know, a la Anderson Silva, you don't want to do that stuff. I mean, I don't care how good you are. Fight your game. I mean, I guess if that's your game, he won. So who am I to judge? Who am I to critique him and say, this is what you should do? Because obviously, he knows what he's doing because he did it and he won. So, moving on. Tate, actually, before I get into the Miesha Tate thing, Felder and Barbosa, what a war. And I'll tell you what. If I took a spinning back kick to the junk from Barbosa, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm done. I'm tapping out. I mean, I don't care if you're wearing a cup or not. And I've worn a cup. I've worn a cup by Diamond MMA and let Debo kick me in the junk. And it's not fun. I don't care if you have a cup on. It's still not fun. So to take a spinning back kick to the junk, oh, man. I felt his pain. Literally, I was curled up. I was crying. It was one of those, like, you know how the twins are connected? Like Tomas and Samot from G.I. Joe. It was kind of like that, you know? I was like, my Joe. Oh, man, dude. All bad. All bad. But he continues. He goes on. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you're rooting for, Barbosa gets the win. He can't be the same, though. Felder can't be the same when he continues. But it was a fight, man. It was a great fight. Felder, obviously, very upset by the decision. I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. I thought it was a very close fight, and I thought it could go either way, so I'm fine with the decision. I'm fine with that. Joe Lozon, fighter and referee, obviously, because he decides when he thinks that the fighter's had enough, so he gets up and he's like, nah, dude's done, and, does a walk-off from mount or guard, wherever he was at, and kind of interesting, pretty funny, actually, but it doesn't get waved off right away as Lozon walks away, and then Herb Dean realizes, maybe I should wave this one off. So that was kind of comical. Co-main event, the one I want to touch about a little bit more, Miesha Tate against Jessica Ai. Not so much about the fight, but what's going to happen for the aftermath. Tate looked great. She came in. You can tell she's really been working on her striking. It paid off. She came in. It looked much, much better. So kudos to her. This is what happens now. Obviously, Tate, #1 contender. She's going to fight the winner between Rousey and Betch coming up for this weekend, which we'll get into soon enough. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on Tate. I like Tate. But I would like to see a rematch between Kat Zingano and Miesha Tate prior to either one of them proceeding. And the reason why I say that, two reasons. A, we've already seen Miesha fight Ronda twice. We've seen it, right? And granted, Miesha is the only one to get out of the first round with Ronda Rousey. So that is saying something. That is saying something. But a lot of people argue Kat Zingano got caught, which she obviously did. Maybe the fight goes differently. Maybe it doesn't. Honestly, I think it's just a duration thing. It was just a matter of time. But let's see if I'm wrong. Let Kat and Miesha fight for that #1 contender spot, and then they can fight the winner between Ronda Rousey and Bethe Correia. So that's just my take on it, and we'll get into UFC 190 in a moment, but I did want to bring that up. That's what I would like to see, and then Miesha can really solidify that #1 contender spot, because people are, I see things being said that she's not, it shouldn't be her fight and this and that, but the reality is, if she has the #1 contender spot, it kind of makes sense, obviously, but it doesn't always work out that way, right? Look at McGregor. McGregor was the #1 contender, but he was getting that shot against Jose. So MMA math doesn't always add up. But it would be nice to see that matchup, in my mind, to see maybe who goes at it next. That's just me. So, anyways, I usually do like a little news and rumor section, but I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about cornermen, or you could call them cheerleaders, if you would. And what I mean by that is, so I just want to do something different this time. It's weird. It seems like you have like one of three dynamics for your cornerman, for a fighter. You've got the cornerman that does his job, that's very good at his job, and he helps his fighter out. I mean, that's what a cornerman should do. I think Greg Jackson is a great example, and there's many more. Matt Serra is a good cornerman. He's yelling out stuff. And then you have the cornerman that is there and does nothing. He's there. He's like, perfect example, Hannah Barrow's cornerman. In between rounds, just win. Just win. What kind of, information is that? How does that help a fighter when he's in the fight? I mean, he is there to win, I'm pretty sure. Anyone that steps in the cage, they want to win. They don't want to lose. So how is telling your fighter, just win, how is that beneficial to them? That is absolutely useless. It's ridiculous, actually. So I thought that was, I thought it was absurd, especially in such a huge fight, title fight. I don't know. The third type of corner is the cornerman that is great and yelling out the proper whatever techniques, movements, telling his fighter what to do, and the fighter's not listening. And then that obviously is not the corner's fault, that is the fighter's fault. And I love Ben Saunders, but this is a prime example. He's got Eddie Bravo in his corner, right? Arguably one of the best jiu-jitsu guys out there. Great gym that he has. Tons of people under him that he's trained throughout the years. And Ben Saunders has like this killer guard, right? He's so limber and long, especially for a welterweight, and he gets you into mission control or the rubber guard, and from there you can transition into a lot of things, whether you want to do a sweep and get up or try to go for different submissions. And Bravo is screaming at the top of his lungs for Saunders to take his arm to do some type of arm transition, whether it's going to be a straight arm bar or what have you. And Saunders is just like deer in the headlights. And I'm like, why would you have that person in your corner if you're not going to listen to him? And it's not like he didn't hear him. He turned over, acknowledged him. Now, whether or not he made actual eye contact, I don't know, because the camera was on the fighters, right? But I just found it so absurd that you would have such a great person in your corner and you're not following their direction. It blows my mind. So, like I said, is it a cornerman or is it a cheerleader is, I guess, what it is. And I've been to many fights, cage side, whether I was on media row or I was there just as a spectator, and I've helped out yelling stuff because I was rooting for a fighter and I knew the fighter, and it irritates me that someone has a camp or their corner and they're not even doing anything. It's like, what's the point what's the point of having that corner with you if they're not going to help you out? I've seen fighters win fights because their cornermen, gave them direction on what to do, whether it was, sprawl or go for submission or keep with the striking or throwing out striking combos, whatever it is. It could be something simple, it could be something complex, but the point is that at least the cornerman is involved and they're trying to help their fighter get through. That's what the corner is for. So anyways, I just want to touch on that. It's more of a rant, just with all the stuff that I've seen over this past weekend, and obviously I've seen it throughout the years of all the different fights that I've seen, but this weekend with the Ben Saunders fight, and then with the Renan Barão with his corner, it just kind of really stuck in my brain this week, so I just want to kind of touch base. Feel free to comment, throw questions at me, throw comments, hate me, do whatever you want. It's all good. All feedback is good. All press is good press, baby. So moving on, this coming weekend we actually have the twofer. We have World Series of Fighting 22, and we also have UFC 190. So we have two fights to look forward to. Obviously, World Series of Fighting, that's a free card. UFC being out in Brazil, World Series of Fighting is having their card in Las Vegas, and that is going to be headlined by Jake Shields and Rousamar Pajares, however you pronounce his name. I apologize, but that is a title fight. There's another title fight on that card as well, and that is Moraes. He's defending his title, and there's another honorable mention of Thiago Silva against Mike Kyle. That is on the card as well. So there's a couple good fights on there, especially if you're looking for some entertainment and you don't want to pay for the premium price of a UFC pay-per-view, which is up to, I think, $60 now for HD. I'm pretty sure that's where it's at, 55 or 60. I don't know. I just buy them because I'm a sucker. I just buy them, right? That's what I do. But, I mean, I support the sport and I support the fighters, and that's just part of my thing. I love the sport. So, anyways, as far as UFC 190 goes, that's where I'll make some predictions. There are quite a few matchups on here that are very intriguing, but I'm only going to touch on the main card, and I'm going to touch just on 4 of the fights on the main card, although there's some other intriguing matchups on there. But I'm going to keep it short and sweet, starting with Jessica Aguilar against Claudia, and I can never pronounce her last name, Gadelia, and I apologize. I suck at pronouncing names, if you didn't know. If you've been watching from the beginning, it's just part of my thing. I just suck at pronouncing names. So in any case, that is an interesting matchup. Jessica Aguilar coming in from the World Series of Fighting. She was the strawweight champion over there. She hasn't lost in nearly 5 years, but quite honestly, the strawweight weight division is kind of new as far as mainstream and large promotions such as the UFC. Obviously Invicta has the strawweight division, World Series of Fighting, obviously, because Jessica was the champion there. The thing is here is, both of these fighters, they both have quite a bit of experience, but I don't know who has fought more of the talent that's out there, because I'm not super familiar with the strawweight division outside of the UFC, and that's what the Ultimate Fighter will segue that. Ultimate Fighter, that's what they do. That's the thing behind the show, is you get to build these characters or personas of the fighters, so you actually connect with them. So I can not relate, but I feel like I may know some of these fighters. Even obviously I don't, or maybe I do, I don't know. Maybe I've met them or some of them or whatever. I've talked to them, who knows? But in any case, what I'm saying is having the Ultimate Fighter as an outlet, it helps you build a connection to the fighter on all the different seasons. So I felt like the strawweight division in the UFC, I have maybe a little more connection with those particular fighters because we got to see them on the show. So all these other fighters that Claudia or Jessica has fought previously, a lot of the names I don't recognize. So I don't know who has fought more of the talent. What I can say is Jessica hasn't lost in almost 5 years. She was the champion. Claudia went toe-to-toe with the current strawweight champion in the UFC, who is Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think that's pretty close on the pronunciation, actually. And a lot of people felt she might have won that fight. That was a split decision, and I believe that was back in December. So, if nothing else, she went the distance with the current champ. So that's saying something. It'll be interesting to see how this happens. I think this kind of puts the ball in place to see who's going to fight Joanna next, or at least coming up close to make a contender spot. I don't know if I have a pick on this. I guess if I had a gun to my head and had to pick someone, I would probably go with Claudia, just because of her fight against Joanna. I thought that was a pretty legit fight. And I felt the couple fights that I've seen of Jessica's in the World Series of Fighting, the competition that she has fought that I've seen, not as high. And let's keep in mind, Claudia, almost all of her wins are by submission, and her only loss is to Joanna. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. Okay, moving on. We got both of the Nogueira brothers on this card. We got Little Nog, we got Big Nog. So the first one to fight is actually Big Nog. He's going to be fighting Stefan Struve. This is an interesting matchup. Stefan Struve has had a little bit of trouble, but most of the people, pretty much the people that he's lost to, are top 10, top 15 fighters. Big Nog is at the end of his career. He's 39 years old, and it's not that he's 39 years old. The guy has been through wars. I mean, was in Pride. I mean, he's been through everything, and he's got a lot of mileage on his body. So this is going to be a really tough fight for him to go through. Stefan Struve is a long, tall guy. He uses his distance pretty decently. So I find it's going to be a pretty tough fight for Nog. I have to go with Stefan Struve on this. As far as the Little Nog against Shogun, this is another fight. I mean, and back to the thing, Big Nog has only fought 6 times in 5 years. Little Nog has only fought 5 times in 5 years. So that alone is an issue. I mean, ring rust, if you're not active, it's hard to stay in that game mode, in gameplay. It doesn't matter if you're sparring every day. If you're not in gameplay, I don't think it's the same. Shogun his record spotty too. I mean, he's 4-7 of his last 11 fights, but he is the younger of the two. They've both been in wars. I have to go with Shogun on this fight, but I think it might go either way, but I would have to lean towards Shogun. Last but not least, I got to talk about the champion, Ronda Rousey, defending her title, going to the homeland of her opponent, Betch Correia. This is what I got to say. Betch, she has 9 wins, 0 losses. But this is what I will say about that. All the people she's fought, I mean, who has she beat? She's beat Jessamyn Duke, she's beat Shayna Baszler, but no one in the top 10, not even in the top 15, I think. I'm not sure if Shayna or Jessamyn was in the top 15 at the time. They weren't in the top 10. And all of her wins, except for 2, are decisions. You think you're going to go 25 minutes with Ronda Rousey? You're not going to finish her. I don't think you're going to get, lucky with a punch. I think this fight ends in a bad fashion for Betch. Ronda Rousey, via some type of stoppage, whether it's a submission or a TKO. I think Ronda might go for the ground and pound on this. I think she wants to beat her up. So I'm going to go with Ronda second round. I'll go second round TKO. We'll go with that. That's what I'm going with. So, any case, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I want to give a shout out to all our sponsors: Unique Kennels, Mama's Boy Apparel, Living Fat, 4 Rings Race Group, Team DFX, who does our websites. Thank you so much. I'm Mighty. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.